Oh man, did you pick the wrong street to run on?
$5,000. Says my boy'll smoke this clown.
So we all know there is an incredibly long list of homologation cars we would love to own. On the other side of that spectrum, there are cars that were kind of immortalized in fiction through whether it be movies, video games, on paper and anime, that have made it to real life. Now, there's a very small list of cars that kind of blur those two categories together, and one of them is of course Razor's M3 GTR from Need for Speed Most Wanted, a homologation car that was brought into a video game to then be immortalized into our minds from our childhoods. And our friend Yuri has built a beautiful replica here for us to drive today, so let's go take it for a spin. Happy Wednesday, you guys. So this one belongs to our friend Yuri, who's kind enough to have me out today. Thank you so much, Yuri, for letting me drive your car. He does not want to be on camera. A lot of you guys have asked in the past, hey, why don't you let the owner talk? Why don't you have a conversation? I ask every owner with a modified car if they want to be on camera. Yuri doesn't want to be on camera. Yeah, we definitely have a welded diff. So, punchy throttle, of course, drive-by-wire at this point in BMW's history. Oh, good pops. So the one I'm driving did not start out as an M3, and this is a catch-22. Even though Yuri's gone ahead, he's got the M shifter in here, he's got a bunch of M stuff, M badges, the door sills have M on it, he's got the M3 badge in the back. This started out as a 330 Ci, which is great. When I think of BMW, especially of the era, where I'm thinking, I don't know, E39 M5, hey, if you don't want to spend the extra money maintaining or paying the M5 tax, you get a 540i. Same goes here with the M3. A lot of people would go with the budget option, which is, of course, the 330 Ci. Plenty of power still here. I don't know exactly what it is, maybe 260, 270, as opposed to about 330 in the S54, but and I feel like, you guys tell me, you probably fit into one of two camps. You either are like, hey, great, you didn't cut up a real M3. You could be in that camp, or you could be in the camp that is like, it's not an M3. It's not a real M3. Well, it wouldn't really matter because it's not a real M3 GTR, and that's the end of product. So you guys let me know. I'm kind of in the camp where, hey, 330 Ci is great, especially as a donor car. And this is, of course, the case with a lot of the Fast and Furious cars I've driven. They start out as the lesser model, let's say an R34 GTT, made to look like an R34 GTR. I think that's a great way to go, especially when we're talking not a legitimate GTR, which would be, I mean, I don't even want to know how much those cars go for if they were to come up for auction. So when Yuri got this car, it was not stock, it was a beat up example of a 330 Ci. It already had the body kit, most of the body kit. And then what Yuri did is he just finished the project. I guess the previous owner didn't have time or didn't want to, or moved on to other things, lost inspiration. Yuri completed the build to what it is today in his garage. He's not a mechanic, he's not a body guy. Now the real question is, which would you rather have, or which would you rather build? Razor's M3 GTR or Rachel's 350Z? There we go. So much fun. Welded diffs are like a little bit of a cheat code, to be honest. Yuri, you have done well, my friend. Yeah, so if you have no idea who Rachel is or what her 350Z looks like, we're never gonna be friends. Underground 2, of course, was, as far as I know, the first open world driving game, very true to street racing. It was always nighttime and there were no cops.
You got a lot of work to do.
One big change made Most Wanted so special when it came out, though, and that was the cops. They brought back the cops. It was always daytime. Of course, those incredibly cheesy, I mean, I can't even watch them now, those live action cutscenes, and it was always daytime in the game. So incredibly different from Underground 2. It was kind of, in a way, I like to think of it as a return to form. You know, back to high stakes, Porsche Unleashed, that era of Need for Speed. Oop, over-revved it there. God, I love these. So good, they just rev so happily. This one I'm driving today, of course, not a real M3 GTR. The M3 GTR was a homologated race car from the early 2000s. It raced in a few different race series. It raced in Grand Am, as far as I'm aware, in the States. And then, of course, it raced ALMS, American Le Mans Series, and that's where it garnered its first couple of wins. Under the hood was a 4-liter naturally aspirated V8. Basically, they developed the race car first, as you do, and then at the time, and this is where it kind of got complicated for BMW and where they ran into issues down the line, at the time, they only had to build 10 street cars to make the race car legal, and that was homologation. 10 cars, and they only had a year to do this. It's not a lot of cars, and the other teams, specifically Porsche, were not too happy that BMW were running effectively an engine that was not available in any of the street cars. As we all know, the E46 M3 has the S54 and inline 6, right? They changed the rules the next year to 100 homologation cars. BMW was like, okay, you know, we took our trophies, we're out. And they left. The car did come back actually in 04 and 05 to win the 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is insane. So that, yes, that happened. There is a difference, however, between those 10, God, that sounds good, those 10 homologated cars and the race cars. So they are different. The homologation cars for the street, which were called the M3 GTR street version, Strassen version, Strassen being street or road in German, those didn't have these wide fenders. These were exclusive to the race car, which is what made Razor's M3 in Most Wanted so insane. Because like I said, that was the fantasy, to drive the race car, right? So the street version did not have the crazy wide fenders. It did, however, have the bumper, which is slightly different here. And Yuri is, I mean, his plan actually is to build an entirely new project car that's completely accurate. This is almost accurate. It has all the graphics. As far as I know, the colors are identical. The bumper is slightly different. You'll notice there are a couple different versions too on the race cars. The first one has like the real chunky kind of bottom section of the bumper that would be a pain to drive on the street. Also, the stripe on the front bumper would have gone all the way down, I believe, where here it has not, because he does intend to change the bumper. This is all paint. So just to see this extra attention to detail here is super cool. But just to look behind me and see this massive APR wing, great fit and finish too. Props to you, Yuri, for fitting that on. It is sturdy. He said he sat his daughter on top and she sat on there, no problem. It's fixed down, real clean. Ride's great too. I actually forgot to ask him what suspension he's running on here. It does ride fairly well, feels fairly planted too. Along with the game accurate front bumper, he also plans to stuff an S65 V8 in his next one, which would be more game accurate. Oh, did I mention Yuri also swapped in a brand new 330 Ci engine when he got the car? He had to end up cutting the hood also on either side to fit the fenders, and keen eyes will notice the original kit actually had slightly more aggressive fenders. They kind of came out a little more horizontal before tapering off towards the wheels. And no, those aren't the original BBS wheels, but they are period, and they are very close from a distance, minus the offset, of course. While made in Japan, they're actually not from the Sparco you're thinking of. It looks like some kind of knockoff. It's not, but it kind of is. Again, made in Japan. The model is NS06. They're built by a company called Crimson Incorporated that still currently builds wheels under a number of brand names today. Yuri did all of this painting himself at home in his garage, the old school way. Super cool. And as you guys can see, little bit of a bulge here on the top. Yeah, to someone who has not played Most Wanted in 15 years, I couldn't tell the difference upon initially just seeing the car between the front bumpers here. I'm sure some of you guys could, and there are a couple of other builders that Yuri's made me aware of that have also built kind of game accurate M3 GTRs. So I'll put their links in the description if you want to check them out. I don't think there's like as big of a community here as there are with the Fast and Furious replica cars, but nonetheless, like really cool to see people actually building these cars. Let's get back in. This will bring a lot of smiles and a lot of joy to a lot of people, and that's what it's all about. That's exactly what this is all about. I need to put this into perspective for you guys. Between the years 2001 and 2006, Need for Speed Underground, Need for Speed Underground 2, Need for Speed Most Wanted, The Fast and the Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious, Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, and Gran Turismo 4 all came out, all were released in a 5-year window. That's where, like, boom, stamped in, imprinted in our minds, and that's what got a lot of us here today. And I know a lot of you guys probably feel the same. Whether it be that, whether it be Initial D, whether you read it, watched it, Best Motoring, all these things kind of accumulated over these 20 years that have passed into today. So I don't know, younger viewers, if you identify with this at all, if this connects at all with you. But the people who I hang out around, it definitely will. So far, no rubbing, no scraping. The attention to detail here is awesome. This was not a project that was slapped together, and it's not a project that was built for clout. Yuri told me, it was funny. He was like, hey man, I had like 700 followers on Instagram, and I started posting. I finished my car and I posted my first reel, and he's like, I woke up and I had 11,000 followers and millions of views. And here I am sitting thinking like, yeah, it hits. And even though we might not go back and play the game, it's cool to see people and have this enthusiasm the same way they do with the Fast and the Furious and otherwise. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. You can go hit up Yuri on Instagram. I'll put it in the description if you want to follow his future projects, see what he's doing. Yeah, thank you guys so much. Subscribe if you haven't already, and we will be back very soon.